My name is Paul. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight we are going to be talking about boating on the Mullica River. We're going to talk briefly about the Great Bay. That is kind of an overlap between Monday's conversation and today's conversation, only because we're talking about bodies of water around it. So we might as well touch on different things that are on that bay that we should be watching out for. We are also going to be talking about Mystic Island, and we're going to be talking about how to get up to Tuckerton and how to navigate different places that are at or in Tuckerton. All right. So, like I start all conversations with, I am doing this in partnership with a couple of different people. We have John Anderson, who helped me out on the Delaware River. We have Happy Captain's Boating Instruction, who is on with us tonight and who will be helping us on the Mullica River and kind of on the next couple areas that we're going to be discussing. Sea Scout Ship 117 may be making an appearance tonight. They may not be, but they will be jumping on with us over the next couple webinars, helping us as we navigate through the Barnegat Bay. I think I saw some new people on the call this evening, so I want to highlight some housekeeping items. Real quick, please refrain from using profanity. Try to treat everybody on the call and all the places that we're talking with respect, and please, pretty please, try to keep the politics to a minimum. I am going to attempt to, well, eventually, I'm going to put this up onto the YouTube channel, so I am recording this. And when I go back to do the edits eventually, it's hard to find all those items to pull them out. So please keep that to a minimum. Also try to keep your camera off. Same thing with your microphone. If you wanted to ask a question, please raise your hand. There's a button somewhere on the screen. Depending upon what you're using, a phone, if you're using your computer or you're using a tablet, screen might look differently. Just kind of find where that button is and you can raise your hand. Throughout the conversation tonight, I will be asking you to kind of raise your hand or give me a thumbs up because I kind of need kind of interaction. Say, hey, yeah, I am on this screen or I am not on that screen. Kind of brief, quick thing. Why am I doing this? For one, we applied for a boating safety award last year. So doing this webinar is helping me kind of learn, helping me get my feet wet on presenting a webinar. The other thing is, I don't think anybody's ever kind of done this to this scale. So what we are doing is this webinar has been walking boaters from or along the waters. We started up in Trenton. We've gone all the way down and around New Jersey. We're now walking our way up the Jersey coast. Tonight we are talking about boating on the Mullica River. So we're about halfway done, almost 3/4 of the way done this webinar, which should be wrapping up somewhere around the second week of June, where we will be finishing up our conversation up in the New York Harbor. All right, at this point, I'm going to just kind of transition here to our charting software, charting app that we're going to be using tonight. I have transitioned at this point. We are, again, 3/4 of the way through the webinar. At the beginning of the webinar, I was sliding occasionally back and forth between different apps, and I have just kind of now fallen into using Navionics. So, share the screen and share. Okay. All right, please give me a thumbs up somewhere that says that we are looking at a chart on the screen. All right. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Art. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you. Okay, so to kind of give you an idea as to where we're talking today. So all these conversations, I try to kind of keep to about an hour to maybe an hour and a half's worth of evening conversation. I've never ever liked having to have a meeting after a full day's worth of work that just drags on forever. And I did not want to have this set up this webinar to do that. So just to highlight where we are talking today. Yes, I'm using the color pink because it shows up on the map. No other reason other than that. All right, today we are talking the Mullica River. We're going to follow the Mullica River down onto the Great Bay, and we're going to talk about all of this section here today, roughly for the most part. I could be give or take. That's the area that we're talking about today. And we're going to be starting the conversation in, let me get my other map going. Okay, I didn't mark it far enough up. Stop annotating. We're going to start in Sweetwater. Zoom all the way in to Sweetwater. I do like to highlight the settings that I am using. You will see that I will rotate between a couple of different settings. I'll click on this button down here. Okay, in this button, I like to transition between the sonar chart and the nautical chart. It kind of gives you a little bit of different topographical view. I also transition between a no overlay and a satellite imagery. Like that'll kind of give you a different view and a different idea as to where we are to help orient you if you haven't. That way, if you have not looked or have not seen a chart view before, it'll help you understand where you are in the world. Okay. Sometimes when you're driving your boat, it may help to have either view available for you to understand. Let's do sonar chart. When you have the sonar chart and satellite imagery, you can see the contours a whole lot easier to see. No overlay. There we go. All right, let's zoom in. Right here, we're going to start off our conversation at Sweetwater Marina. Okay, annotated here, nice circle. Sweetwater Marina is right here. Great place to go. Even if you don't have your boat, even if you don't keep your boat here, they do have a ramp. You can put it in and out, and they do have a restaurant. If you come up here, you come up here and grab some food. It's a great place. Absolutely a awesome time. But be mindful as you're leaving this area, it can be shallow as you leave, especially at low tide. Okay, as you're looking at the chart, we can see the depth contours, right? We can see threes, we can see twos. So if I click on the map here, right in the center of my crosshairs, we can see a 3, right? We can see a 2. That is your depth at low tide. They say mean low tide. That's the average low tide. You should have roughly a 3-foot sandbar right offshore of that dock. Not that far away from that dock. So to keep that in mind, what you're doing, right? Back in the day, that river used to be nice and wide, and people used to go flying through there well enough away that you wouldn't have to worry about throwing a wake to that dock. Nowadays, you have to worry about throwing a wake, right? So all this area here is going to be a no wake zone. So make sure you're adhering to that no wake zone. All right, not only is it a no wake zone, but it's really shallow. And since it is shallow, all this area, you're not really going to have, well, you're going to have channel markers, but they're going to look like sticks. Okay, they look like literal poles, almost like tree branches. Okay, and on the tree branches, you're going to have little pieces of like wombis in the shape of a triangle or in the shape of a square. Okay, that's going to be your a square for your green. That'll be on your port side, or I'm sorry, green for your green channel marker and red for your red channel marker. Okay, now we can follow it on the way out. Ed, if I ever miss something here, you can jump in, or if you want to cover something, feel free to jump in to cover it. So I can see both of these things. All right, coming down here. Next thing that we're going to be all right. We do have a marina right here. This is the Jersey Devil Marina. For some reason, it is not indicated on, it's right here. That is the Jersey Devil Marina. For some reason, it does not have one of those fancy pink or magenta sailboats on this chart, but it is there. That's why every now and then it's a good idea to switch between, do you want to have the satellite overlay, or do you want to not have a satellite overlay? Okay. We will slide south. This high up on the river, one reason that you have to stick to the channel is fairly well marked, or it normally is during the season, as long as people haven't ran over the channel markers, or the channel markers haven't been removed by large log yet. There's a lot of stumps almost immediately out of the channel. So you have to be really careful as you're going along this channel, because if you veer outside of this channel and you go onto the shallow areas, you could find that sandbar. I'm going to switch back to the no overlay so we can see how the channel or the river kind of slinks along here, right? So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you can see how it just kind of weaves in and out here, right? It does not go in a straight line. It can be kind of deceiving when you're on the river, because you just don't want to go straight, right? You just want to get up and go straight. But in actuality, the river just kind of slinks along, nice and kind of lazy river, right here. Right. Here we're going to come to our first bridge. This bridge does open. This is the Green Bank Bridge. You can just hail it on channel 13, and it can open. It will open. We can ask it a question. I don't think it comes up with anything. It does not. Just hail it on channel 13, and it is available to be opened. And we continue
real
going.
quick, with that bridge, sometimes I've had it open before I get there, and I found that best practice is still to talk to them, because you can't always see someone coming from the other way, and it may have opened for them, and you think they're being real nice, but you could be setting yourself up for a problem.
That's fair. That's great to know. Right, good deal. All right, we're going to keep going south. And the next, I don't think there are no other marinas along here until we get to Viking Yachts has a small yard over here. The only way to show it is to bring up on the satellite image, because again, it does not show up on with the little icon. They do have a lift. There isn't. They can lift vessels in and out back here. Just know that they do have a yard back there. It's not really a service area, just know that they do have a setup there. Just kind of appears as you're traveling through here. All right, we're going to keep going south. And we're going to be coming up to Jersey Cape Yachts and our next bridge. Okay, this bridge here, this guy's kind of cool. He does open on demand. This is the Lower Bank Bridge. Jersey Cape Yachts does have quite a few larger yachts back in here. They do a lot of service work. This bridge, something I did not mention on the last bridge, the Green Bank Bridge, both the Green Bank and this bridge both only have about a 5 to a 6 foot bridge clearance at low tide. So at high tide, you're really not going to have much of a clearance to get underneath there. So you most likely will have to open that. So make sure you have your radio and that you can call them ahead. And to Ed's point, if you come across the bridge and it is open already, make sure that you communicate with them so you're not meeting a unexpected sailboat or other vessel coming through the opposite direction. All right, we're going to keep coming south. All right, as we come south, the river just kind of bends and weaves around here. Really isn't anything else around here or southbound until we get to Chestnut Neck. Just kind of weaves and bobs. There used to be a spot where we would stop and watch fireworks at some guy's mansion, but that has since stopped. I think it was for somewhere around here in Swan Bay. All right, the river just kind of keeps coming down. For anybody that canoes or kayaks in the Wharton Forest, this is the Wading River right here that connects. This right here is the Wading River. That is the same Wading River that you go and get on in Batstow on canoes and kayaks. So that's why if you do not get off where they ask you to get off, you can eventually show up and find your way all the way down to the Mullica River and eventually get out down here at Chestnut Neck, which is directly underneath or just past the Garden State Parkway Bridge. All right, right here is where we find Chestnut Neck. Chestnut Neck does have fuel. They are a full service center. They do have a large yard, kind of a DIY yard. They don't really get many of those yards in New Jersey. Full bait and tackle shop there, and they do have a ramp if you need to use a ramp to get in and out. Okay. The other marina, something there is in this section of the Mullica River, there are a couple cut throughs. So I'll kind of zoom out so we can see them here. Okay. So let me highlight in pink the standard. So this is how the river travels, right? This is the river, the Mullica River. That's how it normally travels. Okay. Some people are going to go that way. Absolutely feel free. No harm, no foul. There are some cut throughs that people will use, and they are available, and you can use them, and they are well marked. Right here, there's a cut through. You will see it. There's a green marker, and really easy to find. Up here, I'll just mark where they are. This one here. So these are the only two cut throughs I will say that are quote usable to larger boats. All right, larger boats as in anything greater than a 30-footer. Okay. I go back and forth here quite often, or have in the past. We actually use Allen's to drop our 30-footer to take it down to Atlantic City. We used to use Chestnut Neck for the longest time. Even before that, we used to keep our boats up in Sweetwater. And these two cut throughs, we've always used them constantly. There are two relatively new cut throughs that unfortunately have been developed due to erosion because boats have been using them. The other cut throughs that I will highlight here are to be used, can be used by small boats like a a wave runner. All right, that one there that I highlighted in green, you can only use that with a wave runner at mid tide to high tide. There's another one that is here, I cut through to get down to um, Chestnut Neck. That one used to just be wide enough for wave runners, but it has been abused enough that I have seen some smaller center consoles now going through there. I have not taken the 30-footer through there. I have seen some other larger boats go through there, but again, it's only because it's been getting abused that it has been getting that big. So I would not, the two green lines, I would only suggest for small wave runners and or small skiffs at mid to high tide. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So let's zoom in on kind of the first cut through. This is the Chestnut Neck cut through. And you can see this is really narrow and really tight, which is why I honestly, I've never really gone through here. The only time I went through here was on a 12-foot skiff. And at that time, it wasn't any wider than my 12-foot skiff. Now it's significantly wider, and I have not gone through this one much at all. Ed, have you gone through this one?
Paul, no, I haven't. I see it. It's tempting when I'm going by, but I only use those two that you highlighted.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, in this satellite image, I can see that there's a boat coming out of it. I'll highlight the boat coming out of it right here. But again, I don't know enough about that cut through to be able to provide insight on it. There is a cut through up here. This cut through, I'll call this the quote Viking cut through. This cut through has just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At one time, it was much smaller than this, obviously, but now it is actually the preferred channel to get through here. The obvious preferred path is to go in this direction, right? You can take it in both in both directions, and you'll be completely fine. You will see people, they do tend to fish in that area. They will stop, and you will see people using their trolling motors and spot locking in that area because that tends to be a good spot to catch some fish that are chewing on some bait. The other cut through that I know I will highlight is this one. Okay, you in this one, let's see if I can change this to make it a little bit more viewable. No overlay. There we go. That's a little bit better. So this one, there used to be a house on this one. So for me, personally, to me, there's only 3 roads because there used to be a house on the 4th road. I don't know when the house was there. There just was one there. Ed might remember the house. It was that long ago. I don't know where the house went. It just eventually got eaten by a storm. So
I
you
do
have road
remember the
one,
house.
road two, and road three, right? Um, there's a house somewhere on that line, so I don't go through that one. But all the other ones are completely fine and completely doable. But there's a house on that red line. I don't know where it is. Just out of purpose, I don't go through there. Okay. Now you have this other really long one that I will say is only for jet skis. This is about how wide the other one used to be for over by Chestnut Neck. And this is slowly getting wider as more jet skis use it over and over and over and over again. It just gets wider and wider and wider. Maybe I'll switch to satellite so you can see just kind of how narrow and how wide, how narrow this thing is. So I wouldn't tempt fate with taking anything bigger than a jet ski through there. And I still wouldn't do it in anything less than mid tide. Because even though it's saying 4 foot in there at the deepest, as soon as you go out of there, there tends to be all these stakes immediately out of there, and it's tight. Let's see if we have a picture of this panoramic photo. That's fancy. All right, so there's well, that photo makes it look a lot bigger than it is. You can see how long that cut through is, and it gets shallow back in there. Don't take anything bigger than a wave runner or a small skiff through that cut through. This is the cut through talking about. Okay. I'm gonna get rid of the satellite imagery because it's taken for too long to load for my liking. And I'm gonna go down. There is a offshoot down to the south, I guess, off of the Mullica River called the Nacote or Nacote Creek. And there used to be a marina down here called the Nacote Marina. Last year it was for sale. Last June, this time. I have not heard any updates. I have no idea if it was sold. Does anybody know on the call if it was sold? You know, there's also that Wave Runner guy in there, and he was selling all his Wave Runner parts and stuff. That is down here. You can see the marina. I believe red. Because I don't know. I don't know if that marina is open. I don't know if it's closed. I don't know if it's changed hands yet. I'll just indicate that it's there. And you do have the Cote Creek that you can get back there. It's off of the south, I guess the south bend of the Mullica River. It's wide. The creek is real narrow to get in there, but you don't have any issues. Nothing really to worry about to get back in there. All right, let's talk about Bass River or Viking River. A lot of people tend not to know that this river is here or that this stuff is back there. They tend to drive over the parkway and look over on your right and see this gigantic Viking plant and say, "Oh, look at that. That's neat." And not know that, hey, there's a bar back there. There's a fuel dock back there. There's 2 fuel docks back there. There's actually stuff back there that you can go to and you can do. But people just don't know how to get back there. And being that it's all rivers and streams, they get nervous and are afraid to get back to know how to do it. So once you're on, go into through the Great Bay, get into the Mullica River. It's the bend. I'll zoom out so we can see where we are. And I'll annotate it. In the pink, this down here is the Great Bay, right? We're going to come in the Mullica River. Maybe we're going to avoid that first cut through. Going to come around, take this first cut through, and now we're at the Bass River. So let's zoom in to see what this is. All right, the Bass River does have kind of this sandbar, 2 kind of sandbar ledges here. They do have quite some large vessels coming in and out of here. I mean, there's some pretty big Vikings, but just be mindful on the inside turn coming in here. You can see that you're going from 26 and it kind of goes up very, very quick, 19, 20, all the way up to 8 and 0 real fast. Let me change this over to satellite. Maybe it'll show the sandbar. All right, it's not. I will annotate it. Brown. All right, there is kind of like a sandbar that sits out here. So just be mindful of that as you're making that turn into there. Okay. This whole area here is all wide open. You don't have to worry about any wakes quite yet. There are some channel markers, not really many. As long as you're in the middle of the river, you're fine. You don't really have to worry about running aground. The only real channel marker per se, or no wake zone, is once you get up here to the public ramp. This is the Bass River public ramp. I tried to find out if there's any fees to use it. The Bass River website was really confusing. I could not find any information, but it is there. They do get really angry if you throw a wake in their direction. I mean, they have to put up with all the Vikings going through there on a constant basis to make sure you slow down and find your wake as you're going through there. And though, believe it or not, the no wake buoys are actually on the chart. There's the first one, here's the second one. And usually don't have a no wake buoy on a chart, but they are well defined in this situation.
Well, sometimes they have the big sign up on the marsh too that says no wake there when the buoys aren't in.
Oh, good call. Good call. You're right. You're right. I wonder if we can find it here. I doubt it because it's so blurry. But all right, good call on that. All right, once you get past the ramp, you can open it up a little bit here, but not too long because really quickly you wind up being on top of all this development back in here. All right. There's a really good spot back here. We do have quite a bit going on back here, and it's actually pretty cool. If you never got back here to see just how big some of these brand new Vikings are, you really need to do it. I know this is where Ed takes some students to teach them. This is where I take some students to teach them, just because you get back here out of the wind, and it's a good spot to learn and to do what you got to do. All right, let's zoom in so we can actually see what we're looking at here. All right, let's annotate. Okay. All right, first up, is we have Allen's Dock. All right, this guy over here, good guy. That's where I put one. That's where we put one of our boats in and out. Great service. He has a lift service and he has fuel in and out real easy. But he doesn't like to mess around because he has a lot of boats to get out of there and to get out of the way. So as soon as your boat's in, get it moving. Don't dilly-dally. All right, over here, this entire thing on the right side of the screen, all of this over here is the Viking, well, the Marina and the Viking plant where they build new Viking sport fishing yachts. Also, what we have here, right here, you have Breeze's Dock Bar. It They are, I think they're not open on Mondays and Tuesdays. Is that right, Ed?
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
closed a good part of the off season as well. The fuel
Yeah.
dock is open, even if they're closed, though, the one that's right there.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. Yeah, they do have a weird Monday, Tuesday off. But they have a really large dock there. Good service, great food, and they do sometimes they have bands playing. Like they just had a band playing last night. Um, Great place to go. Great place to hang out. Really easy to get to too. It just unfortunately far sometimes.
Well, I'll just say that that's one of the easier dock and dines to find an open slip, in my opinion. Twice a year they do a poker run there. I seem to always hit it on that day, and the slips are full. But generally, you can go there and either along that front side where the fuel dock is, or just around the corner to the right. There's another handful of public slips, and they're real great. You can tie up, have lunch, dinner, whatever you want.
The highlight where it is talking, you usually find slips right here and right here without any issues. Okay. All right, after you're done here, and you want to head back to wherever it is that you came from. Um, Keep in mind this is about, depending upon how fast your boat does move, this could be like a half-hour run back to, I always forget the name of this place. This could be about a half-hour run back to Mystic Island, if not a 45-minute run, depending upon where you live in Mystic Islands, because Mystic Islands itself is a humongous no wake zone, just a gigantic no wake zone. And it could just take forever to get through here. Now in Mystic Islands, you do have 3 ways to get into Mystic Islands. I know on Monday I said 2 because I was talking about the Great Bay, but you really have 3 ways to get in. So you have the Mullica River, you have the Great Bay, and you have the Tuckerton Way. All right, depending upon where you're coming from and where you're trying to go. The biggest, you have kind of a couple decisions as to why you would want to use one entrance versus the other entrance. So you have, one would be the no wake zone. All right, where do you live in the neighborhood and how far do you want to travel at no wake speed? Okay. The second question could be, what is the wind doing in the bay All right. Do you want to travel across the bay to get all the way to the other entrance to go in through the Great Bay, right? Because you could hit some rough water, right? If we're going from the Mullica River, do we want to go all the way over here and go in through this way just to save some time and not have to go through all that no wake zone? I mean, it could save you absolutely a boatload of time. But then again, you could get hit with some weather that could not be pleasant depending upon the direction of that wind. There is another factor they have to think about is what is the tide doing and what is the height of your boat? Because you do have a bridge right here. You do have a 12-foot clearance bridge at low tide. That's the Osborne Island Bridge. At high tide, you don't get much clearance. I think you get about 5 foot of clearance, if I remember that correctly. So you do have some clearance, but not much of the clearance. So depending upon what you're driving, what kind of boat you have, just make that decision as to what you want to do. Right now, I mean, if you're on the Mullica River, you would not want to drive all the way around to Tuckerton to go back in through the Tuckerton entrance, right? You do have 2 marinas in this area. I'll highlight them now. We do have the Great Bay Marina, and we do have One Rose Marina up in here. Both are great spots to go to. Now, if you're going to be using the Tuckerton entrance and exit, a couple things to take into consideration with this one is there is another bridge all the way over here. All right, this bridge has a clearance. Come on. Of not much. Where's the clearance? Not giving me a clearance. It is not much. Ed, any idea what the head clearance is on this bridge?
Well, I'm going to say at low tide, 6 feet, and that could be a stretch.
Yeah, it's not
It's
much.
it's it's low. I don't. I've gotten some shallow water problems and some big greenhead issues back there, so it's
Yeah,
a dangerous trip for me.
yeah. It's not much head clearance and it's really shallow. Um, and your other discrepancy is I'll change this to no overlay so you can see the on this side. On the Tuckerton side of the bridge, there is a shoaling issue directly on the other side of the bridge. So you can only go through there. You can't really go through there at low tide. I know it says 3 feet, but that is a lie. I know this says 3 feet, but that's a lie. That's more like 1 foot. Right, so it can be really sketchy, really tough to get through there. So I mean, it is an option, but I mean, you're only talking about wave runners, if that. You're not talking about big boats, just wave runners. Okay. Um, Another kind of word for the wise for the Mystic Islands. Um, Oh, there is a boat parade in the Mystic Islands that is this year. Every July they do it. It's a lighted boat parade. This year it's going to be targeting the weekend of July 11th and between July 11th and July 13th. They're going to figure out what day it is depending upon the weather, and they're going to go with it. They also have a thing with their wakes back in there. The slower you go, the better. I equate it to a duck. They have people in there that will yell at a duck for splashing too much. So keep that in mind if you're going to be boating back in there. Slow is pro back there because they don't like wakes. Last on Monday, we did highlight that if you're going to be boating in the bay, that you want to be using this buoy 139 for all of your traveling needs, right? So wherever you're trying to go outside of that area, right, just travel to that 139, and that'll get you to anywhere you need to go, with the exception of everything on this side. All this side is sandbar. Anything to the east or to the left of that is good. Okay. All right, going south here on this portion of land, we do have a couple marinas here. Just gonna touch base on them. Cape Horn Marina. We have Captain Mike's Marina. Both are great marinas, good people, great places to go if you need help with anything. I guess I should highlight how to get through here. All right, so when you leave Mystic Islands, you're going south. All right, make sure that you're hugging the land. Okay, I think last week we did confirm that the buoys are out and it is marked. So follow the buoys on your way out, stay between them, and just kind of follow the land around. That'll keep you in the deep water, and just follow it around to get out. Okay, make sure that, and then you're going to kind of go around the stink house, which is down here. Some other people may call it the fish factory. Be mindful of all the sticks, right? Don't get caught up in the oyster farm sticks, and there's some oyster farm structure over there, some big metal cages. I think someone posted pictures of them on Facebook today. Just be mindful of them. Don't just kind of stay away from them. You don't want to get anything caught in your props. Okay. Right. Here we're gonna go down around this kind of island here, and we enter. This would be the Little Egg Inlet, but we're not going to cover the inlet here. We're going to have a whole separate webinar specifically on inlets. All right, now we're going to start making our way. This is technically LBI here on the right side. This is LBI, beginnings of LBI. All right, and we're going to start making our way up towards Tuckerton, and I'll highlight the channel here for you. All right, we will follow it on our way in. All right, should go something like that. Let's zoom in and double check, make sure we're looking at it correctly. All right, anytime that you're coming in from the inlet, you should have red on your right when returning from sea and green on your port. Okay, that is what this channel marker here, this number 41, kind of represents. Okay, that you would leave that, should be leaving that channel marker. It kind of is in no man's land, but that channel marker should be the right. We're gonna go with that's the. I don't know what that's trying to show. All right, we're gonna leave that one alone, and we're just gonna jump up to the magenta line here. I've highlighted this on the past couple webinars. The magenta line here, dashed line, indicates that this is the intercoastal waterway. We can follow this here, and it shows us that we are officially in an intercoastal waterway. When we are in intercoastal waterway, we're going to leave the green buoys between us and the ocean seaweed, and red between us and land. All right, we can follow this on our way in. Just be mindful of there is a sandbar directly on the inside, and that is what these channel markers are kind of preventing you from running over. All right, there every season, every time I go out here, there is always somebody getting stuck on these sandbars because you can't see them. I know it shows green. Let's do the satellite image. On the water, they're not there. You can't see them. They're gone. They're not there. They're just a sandbar, right? So at high tide, they're not there. At low tide, your boat is on mud. All right. So right here in this area, we're going to make sure that we're staying between the red and the greens. Keep the red between us and New Jersey, and green between us and the ocean.
Well, if I can interject, they've migrated
Sure.
even further to the east, further towards the ocean this year, to the
They
point where
have?
some of the actual telephone pole markers, in my opinion, are dangerously close to shallow water.
Wow. Really?
That was as of a week ago.
Wow. That's good to know. That's important to know. Okay. All right. So we'll hug the so stay away from the red markers is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. How about the cut into Tuckerton? Have you done that?
Yeah, I have. So I take a little bit of that cheater cut right along the front of the Rutgers Research Center and along there, and
Okay.
the bar has gotten shallower, trying to hop over into that Tuckerton channel, and they do have the shallow water marks out, the shoaling marks already, and it looks the channel itself is fine, but there's zero room for error in the majority of it.
Okay. All right. So what Ed is highlighting here is I'll use the brown to show this. So right here we have this sandbar, right? So you have kind of two options. The intercoastal waterway goes in this direction. There is this what Ed mentioned as the cheater route that you can go that goes in this direction, and there are small floating buoys that you have to stay right on point. If you go off point, you'll run aground as you approach this shallow area, and you have to hit them, stay between them dead on, or you're going to run aground. You can either go that way, or what that does is that crosses this shallow area. That crosses this shallow area right here to meet up with this channel that joins right there. Okay. I've done both. I have not done this year. So I was curious. You haven't done the standard channel. You've just done the cheater channel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I've done both. I've been through both. The ICW channel is okay. Like I said, it's migrating to the east, the sandbar, and I hug the seaward side. The full Tuckerton Creek channel is okay. The cheater channel has gotten small, and it seems like the shoaling around it has gotten worse.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Can't wait to see what that does for the migratory boats, but we'll see. All right. So if we're heading up into Tuckerton, we're going to be taking this channel. And it's going to when we have to follow it. In this area, you kind of have to follow it dead on because there is quite a bit of shoaling here. So just follow the channel markers dead on. It does kind of make a about left turn. It's kind of unexpected. You would think it would just kind of keep going straight, but no, it does make an about port or an about left turn here. All right, there is a sandbar here, and it is usually marked pretty well. Either it's marked by the standard channel markers, or it will have these hazard buoys. They look like no wake buoys all along this. Like they look like pock marks almost along it. It's like almost like that, so you don't run aground onto it. Okay. All right, and it just kind of wiggles its way around here, like a big S turn. The After you get around this S turn, we do have a couple more sandbars, and again, along with these sandbars, you do get those sometimes. Well, you should get those sandbar markers on these curves. They've always been there every time I've taken this route. They've always been there. All right, getting to Tuckerton, you do have to cross this bay. This route has always been deep enough, as long as you stay in the channel. And it is a pretty much a straight shot in the channel. Straight shot in the channel up into Tuckerton. All right, once you get up into Tuckerton, it becomes a no wake zone pretty fast, and it's a no wake zone the entire way in. Um, it gets pretty slow in here, and that's all right. A lot of people do pick up and go a little bit faster right after this housing. It's I guess they get some benefit out of it, like from here to about here. It's like 5 seconds worth of throttle, but hey, if that's what you get, that's what you get. Um, so we're gonna have a couple marinas here. Circle them. Adjust it so I have more than two on the screen. Okay. Right, over here. This is Sheltered Cove Marina. They do have a field dock, and they do have a lift, and they do have a couple manufacturers that they are dealers for. They're good friends of ours. Be sure to swing by and check them out. They do they're they do have a small fuel dock, so it can be difficult to get into there. But what's good about their fuel dock is it is, quote, off the main channel. So even though there's other fuel docks that are on the main channel, that one sometimes is not as full as other ones may be.
Also
All right.
24 hours, Paul, fuel dock, which is
Yeah,
nice.
that is nice. That is nice. Uh, the other one over here is Total Marine. Over here is Southport Marina. Southport Marina also has a fuel dock, but that fuel dock is on the outside and faces the main thoroughfare. That one is right here. So that one's a little bit more difficult. Not difficult, but there's a whole lot more traffic there, and that one can get a little bit more congested. All right. All right. Ed, I might have to lean on you on these ones because these ones have changed names so many times in my book. Um, all right. I believe that one's still Cedar Cove. We have Tuckerton Marine Center. And did one of these sell? Did one of these go up for sale?
To the best of my knowledge, they're all the same names. I don't know if they've changed hands, um, but I believe they're all the same name.
Okay. All right. They're all on top of each other, and it gets tough.
They're all pretty small too.
Yeah. All right. Oh, ironically, back in the day, this used to be the only place in New Jersey that used to be the only place in New Jersey, right there, that spot. Boop. That used to be the only informational buoy in New Jersey. It used to be a white buoy with a square on it. Since been gone. Never saw it. Haven't seen it in a long time. That was the only one that I could ever find. It's been gone since. Okay. Now we have a whole bunch more stuff going on up here. All right, we have Skinner's Marina on the port side. We have GEB and the Dockside Cafe on the starboard side here. That is this one right here. That is a nice cafe. If anyone ever gets in there, they do have a dock that you can pull up to. It can get really busy. So make sure that you're paying attention as you're going through this area. A lot of moving parts, a lot of moving boats. The next marina that we have is Keeney's Marina. All right. We do have Tuckerton Municipal. Tuckerton Municipal has one over here, and they do handle slips also over at the museum at the seaport. And all the way up top, we do have the Stewart's Marina. Well, not marina, but it's a restaurant. Okay. And up here, there's always a lot going on, always something going on. So if you're looking for something to do, it's always something going on. So give the Tuckerton a call, reserve a slip, get a transient slip for a festival, get up there and just have a good time. Whether it's a food truck event or something going on at the Seaport Museum, or there's always something going on up there. Absolutely always something fun. Okay, so we talked about quite a bit today. I know I went over the 8 o'clock timeline. Just to kind of recap what we talked about today, we talked about the Mullica River. We talked about Bass River, how to get to, or the Viking River. We talked about boating in and out of Mystic Island. Talked about briefly about the Great Bay. Some points I did not highlight on the Great Bay. So we talked about that on Monday. Guess I could kind of highlight it. Thanks for joining us for this session of Whitman Marine Training's Boater's Compass. I hope you found this discussion helpful in navigating safer and smarter. As always, stay aware, plan ahead, and respect the water. Don't forget to check out our upcoming webinars. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like covered next time, please let us know. Subscribe for updates. And until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and enjoy the journey and get out on the water and have some fun.